Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I have another guest episode for you all. With me is my friend, colleague, Sarah Arnold Hall. Sarah is a high performance coach who helps people overcome procrastination and take action on their biggest goals. And Sarah, you're from Wellington, New Zealand, or you currently live in Wellington, New Zealand.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, please introduce yourself to the listeners. Tell them, what you do, a little bit about your work, and then we'll dive in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Sade. I'm so excited to be here. So I am Sarah. I'm a high performance coach and I help people stop procrastinating. It's something that I really struggled with in a lot of different areas in my life when I was younger, and figuring out the coaching tools and the systems to allow me to actually execute and take action on my goals was the key for me to have success in lots of different areas of my life. And so whenever somebody comes to me and they are struggling with not getting themselves to take action, I just feel like so much excitement, because it's like, this is the only thing in between you and your goal, is just getting yourself to actually create the opportunity by taking some action. So
yes, we're going to talk a lot about that today, because I want everyone to hear about taking action. It's literally what I'm always talking about, taking action on dating, like getting started, taking action. But before we talk about the coaching stuff, you have a pretty amazing dating story. Even though you're not divorced, or, this is your first long-term relationship.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm not married, but we've been together for 8 years.
Yeah.
And we met in a very interesting way.
I know. And I want to hear it. And that's why I told, like, when we were connecting, I was like, don't tell me, I want to hear it live on the podcast. So really just tell us the story, kind of like how you went about dating and meeting your partner. And then we will talk about taking action.
All right. So I think I always had this vision of how I was going to find my partner because of rom-coms and movies that tell you what's going to happen. And so I always envisioned that I would move to New York, maybe around age 28, 30 years old, date a bunch of guys who were pretty average, and then fall in love and get proposed to next to a fountain. This was the vision. It was very specific in my mind. And when I was 18 years old, I went to university and I thought, well, someone here, until I moved to New York when I'm 30, like someone here, it's got to be like boyfriend material. Like there's a lot of people here. And I lived in a university dorm with 400 people. There were 200 men and 200 women. And I was like, well, 200 guys, that's like, one of them's got to be compatible with me. I was like, it's really just a numbers game at this point. So within the first week, I knew every single person's name in the entire dorm, all 400 people, including the women, because I'm a real extrovert, but I was like, I just want to connect and know, because they might know someone who could be a great match for me. And I really am ambitious. And I don't think that love is an area that I'm like, I think a lot of people think that the finding a partner is out of their hands. And so they go, it's just something that just has to happen to you. Don't know when it's going to, happen. And I don't agree with that, because I think just like any other goal, you can plan for it. Now, you don't know what might happen with it, but you can create opportunities where it's much more likely to happen, just like every other goal. 100%. And so after meeting all of these people, I met a guy who I really was into. And I thought, oh, this guy, he's for sure the one. And he was treating me so lovely. And we would go on all these little dates. And then the moment I wanted to start introducing him to people, he just shut down. And I don't know if you've ever been ghosted, like online, but I was ghosted in person. So like when somebody just looks at you and then looks like you've been seen, and you like see the little message that pops up and says seen. And then the person's not responding to your message. That happened to me in real life with this guy. I was like, hey, it's not him, but I kept going. And I think this is the reason I share that part of the story. Is it would have been so easy for me to be like, all right, I'm just going to give up and wait for people to come to me, because I'd met all of these people and none of us were really clicking except this one guy. And I really thought it was him. And I just kept going. I just kept creating connections and meeting with people. And I met my partner now, Daniel, and the energy that I had was so different between the two. So the energy that I had when I was going after this first guy, I was like, he's the one. I was very like full force, like trap him kind of energy. And I think that's probably the reason why he was like, oh, get away. And with my partner, I learned from that experience. And I was like, I'm going to go in so chill. I'm going to go in so cool. Like, he's not even going to like, oh, me? You want to hang out with me? Oh, this is fun. I'm fun. There's like, if you don't want to hang out with me, that's cool. There's so many other people who will. And I really came in with this detached energy. In fact, I heard a beautiful quote the other day that said, attached to nothing, connected to everything. And that's the way that I really approached the dating, was detached, unattached from any particular person, but totally connected to everyone. And he basically ignored me, wasn't really interested. And I just kept inviting him out to things. I was like, come to salsa dancing. I need a salsa partner. Come and do this. I gave him my number. He didn't text me. I just kept like, but it was very relaxed.
Did you know that you liked him at that point? Like, were you interested?
Yeah, I knew because he told me he was a cheerleader, and I thought he was joking. So I just laughed. He wasn't. And I had always dreamed of being a cheerleader when I was younger. So I started chatting with him and connecting with him. And we had a few classes together. And I just found him to be, he was just so relaxed. I mean, the fact that he wasn't into me straight away, I kind of liked that. He was just like, oh, he was just as chill as I was. There was no pressure at all. And that's why it actually sparked something.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, did you know at the time that there were 400 people that you were planning to meet? Like, did you know the number of people in your dorm when you just said, well, I'm going to get to know everybody in my dorm?
I knew there were 400 people. And that's part of, I think, what sparked my belief that I could find someone, because I was like, there's so many people here. Like, why? Someone's got to be for me. Like, I just really saw it like rolling the dice. I think with dating, a lot of people are like, I met 3 guys and none of them were like, and I'm like, meet 100 more. Like, how are you supposed to find the love of you? If you expect that love is going to come to your doorstep, then yeah, you only have to meet a couple of people, because hopefully fate just brings you the right person. But I don't believe that's the way that it works.
Yeah, it doesn't. Sometimes it seems like it's fate that brings a person to another person. But when you actually look at the situation, the same variables came into play. So, many of us, like kind of like you, met our first partners, in college or right out of college or at work. And what was at play at that time was a whole bunch of single people all in the same on the same campus, or, you're a bunch of interns working at a high-tech company, they've got 100 interns. The variable of meeting a lot of people was at play, but without the individuals having to put in the effort to create contact with 100 people or contact with 200 people. When I went to college, which is where I met my ex-husband, and there were a lot of guys who were interested in asking me out. Like, literally the entire college was like it was like the world was my oyster in terms of choosing a guy. I just happened to choose the wrong one. But I think 27,000 students, I think including graduate students at my college. So it was like, of course it was easy. Of course it was just a matter of deciding who you wanted to date. But the variable of you got to meet a certain number of people is the same. And I think people think that, oh, when I'm not meeting 1,000 guys by chance at the grocery store, then there's something wrong with them.
Totally. You have to go and put yourself. I mean, I went to university and it wasn't on purpose to find love, but that was, part of creating that situation. And I think now with online dating, there's really an opportunity to meet so many people. Really, there's far more than 200 people that you could meet and swipe through, but also you can put yourself in situations. I've coached people before to go out and take action to create clients or to find people to be in love with, ideally. And sometimes that looks like joining a new gym or doing these seem like obvious things, but we don't actually do them, right? We don't actually get ourselves to take action and do them.
Yeah. Why don't we? Let's talk about that part. Like, what is it about us and our brains that makes taking action a challenge?
Yeah. So I see that there's 5 main emotions that stop people from taking action. And I can share them with you, and anybody who's listening, you think about which one might be stopping you from taking action in your dating life. So the first one is confusion. If you feel confused about what to do, where to find people, you're just never gonna want to put yourself out there because you just keep yourself stuck. Second one is overwhelm. Too much choice, not enough choice, don't know what to do, or that's more confusion. Too much to do, like you've got all of these other things going on in your life. That's definitely going to make you feel like you don't want to take action. Self-doubt is the third one. If you feel like, who am I to find love? Any of those kind of questions about who you are, your self-worth, that's definitely going to stop you. Fear, what might happen if you find someone? What might happen if you don't find someone? And then lethargy. I just don't really feel like it, or it's not working right now. I've tried and it just doesn't work. So you just feel like, ugh.
Oh my gosh, those are spot on, like literally, those are spot. Like I've heard those, like even a coaching session I had today, my client was like, I was just not interested. I just didn't feel like it. I was like, sis, we ended up having to coach on that because it was the lethargy, it was well, this guy seemed nice, but they're just not likely to be the one. And, I could go to this other thing with my friends, which she had other things with her friends, her girlfriends. It was like a guaranteed good time with her friends or a possible good time or a possible disappointment with a guy that she didn't know.
That's so good, because I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one, because when you tell yourself, I don't feel like it, it's not even really that true. What's happening is your brain is saying, I don't think I'm going to get a result that's worth doing it. So you have to feel the belief that you're going to get the result. But if you believe that the love of your life was at the end of this Tinder date that you're supposed to go to, or the end of this networking event where you're going to meet people, you would totally feel like doing it. So you're just telling yourself, I don't feel like it. What you really mean, or your brain is trying to say, is, I don't think this is going to work, which is a different thing to kind of work on. Because of course you feel like finding the love of your life. Are you kidding me? Everyone wants that.
Yes, well, yes, we do. Everyone listening wants that.
Everyone listening wants to find
love. This
love.
podcast absolutely wants that. So let's talk about, you had mentioned fear. I think we all kind of know fear. We're all pretty familiar with that. What about overwhelm? I know that comes up for women a lot because, especially if you've been divorced now, when you do have your children, like you're the only parent taking care of the children, probably have to have your finances in order. Like there's just all these things that are going on. And I know that can create some overwhelm. And I think sometimes that gets in the way of women deciding that, even though they know they want a partner, deciding that like, this is the right time, or I can do this, or it's okay to step out and take time and money out to find a partner.
Yeah, I would really think about what the exact thought is, because there's you gave a whole bunch of really great examples. I like to do something that I call finding the antidote thought. And the antidote is the thought that directly cures the other thought. Like if you imagine taking a potion or an antidote to cure some kind of illness or something, you create an antidote thought to kind of cure this other one. So one example is there's just not enough time to date.
Yeah.
An antidote thought for that would be, there's so much time to date. Now, that doesn't mean you have to believe it yet. It just means you have to find it. Once you've found that antidote thought, you now have an opportunity to look for all the evidence of why that's true. So what's happened is your brain's just been looking for all the evidence for the long time that you don't have time to date, or that there's just too much going on in your life, or that the finances are so stressful right now, or it's not a priority. Your brain has been looking for evidence. So pick the thought that you think is stopping you, and then notice how much evidence your brain has been creating and looking for. And that's why when you pick an antidote thought, people are like, that's too far. That's I don't believe that. I don't believe I've got tons of time to date. But you have to start building evidence for why that could be true instead.
Yeah, because the current thought is literally standing in the way of achieving the goal. It's literally, if you keep believing that you don't have time to date, your brain will keep gathering even more evidence that that's true. And then you'll never do it.
Well, so often when we tell ourselves, I don't have time to date, then we avoid any dating at all. And we just create and we do a whole bunch of other things in our lives to keep ourselves busy. And we're just proving to ourselves, look at all these things I've got going on that are so busy. I don't have any time to date.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens. Every time I catch it in my own life or in my own self, because of course my brain is very much a human brain and still does all of these things. I'm always like, this is insane how much I believed that thought, like how much I believed whatever. I can't remember I don't know what the most recent one was, but whatever it was, like every time I come to a level of self-awareness about a thought that I'm believing that doesn't serve me or serve my goals, I'm always like, that is so sneaky. Because the brain literally will create the truth, or it will create, like I said, not even just find evidence, almost create evidence that it's true.
Yeah.
It'll create the situation that proves it through. And I think one of the areas that I had to work on when I was dating, which is now several years today, this month is our anniversary month. It'll be 4 years, which is crazy to me.
Congratulations.
So I got married 4 years ago. Thank you. Was that dating was would take me away from my kids, right? And it wasn't quite that it would take me away from my kids, but that I should spend. I'm trying to figure out how he showed up. Like I remember the antidote thought to that now. I don't even quite remember the thought, but it was like the right thing to do was to wait until my children had left home. The right thing to do was to spend that time with my kids, with them. They were teenagers at the time, and just wait it out, right? And I think a lot of my thinking at that time was that it had to do with how other people would view the fact that I was a single mom. And instead of spending my evenings at home cooking for my teenage children, I was out on dates or at social events trying to meet my partner.
Imagine a mother putting herself first.
I
Society
know.
would fall apart.
I know. That was my thinking. It really had a lot to do with that, because I mean, I'd been a stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom, like all the perfect, attempting to be the perfect Stepford wife. That didn't work out. And so I had those thoughts in there. And I remember working through that. The antidote to me was to find, like, how would meeting my partner serve my children? Right. And I was like, well, what if it served them? And I could see how it could. One, I was like, well, we've never been a healthy family, a healthy unit, because of my ex. Like, what if I could show them, for the last 2 years that they are living at home, a healthy relationship? What if they could see that up close before they left home? And that really just fueled me, because I felt like then I was going after my goal and also serving my children. And I've talked about this on the podcast, all the ways that turned out to be so true, all the ways that I was so glad I didn't wait, all the ways that my husband has been in service to my children with their careers, with going to college. Like, it would not have been the same if he wasn't here.
That's so powerful. I have a statement that I'm always telling my clients that I think this one statement just really changed my life. And that is, you don't believe a thought because it's true. You believe a thought to make it true, because of that self-fulfilling prophecy that happens. So when you believe, you get to basically script the life you want to have. If you want to believe that having a new partner in your life would be better for your kids, you're going to make that happen. You're going to show up in a way that having that partner in your life is beneficial to your kids. Whereas if you believe that having them there is not beneficial, you're going to prove that. You're going to come up with all the ways. You're going to look for all the reasons why it's terrible.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a mind. It's a little bit of a mind, like, like, wait, what? But that's the essence of coaching. That's the essence of taking the time to examine our thoughts, to see what we're thinking, because they really, really do make a difference. I wanted to ask about getting started. Like, most of the people listening to my podcast are women who they're already actively dating. Like, they're like out there trying to figure it out. But then there's a small subset who are like, I call them those who lurk on the apps, or they've never been on the apps, or they're still like in that indecision and spin of, should I get started? Should I, and I think I've heard someone talk about that infinite that infinite 1%, going from 0 to 1, like, what does it take to just get started?
Yeah. Okay. So, there's a really great book by a woman named, I think I actually have it next to me. It's by a woman named Catherine Morgan Schaffler, and it's called The Perfectionist's Guide to Losing Control. And it's really fantastic because it's about embracing perfectionism. But sometimes when we're not starting, we can be what Catherine in this book describes as a procrastinating perfectionist. She describes 5 different kinds. And procrastinating perfectionists are really good at planning. Like, they want to look at everything from a 360-degree angle. They've got all of the decisions, like, want to make them perfect, want to get research all the information to make the perfect decision. And it's just difficult to get themselves to actually begin. And so if you're listening and you're that kind of person, you want to just make a decision right now, the smallest of decisions, and decide that you've started. Because sometimes it's like, I will begin when? As soon as you're like, I've dipped my toe in the pool, I have begun. Now you're able to continue. And so one of the ways that I think about doing that is just picking like the smallest action that would make you feel like you had started. So it could be downloading the app, or it could be actually messaging someone, or it could be going on a date with someone that you already know and you trust and that you've been on a date with before. Whatever you feel like is like a small, tiny little action that you can take, you've got to get your brain into, I've begun. I'm in the dating world now.
Yeah.
Because if you are waiting, you will, and you're like, I haven't started, you're not going to create that opportunity.
Yeah, it sounds like there's an identity shift with that. Whereas I'm not dating, but if you download the app and just put your name in there, you could say, I'm dating.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
Easily. I'm dating. That's just who I am. I date.
Yeah,
I downloaded
I think the identity part of it can be really, is really a big deal, because, you know, there's the impact of how women are socialized on all of this. So dating feels like a really high stakes situation for women because, you know, just historically, if you didn't get married, you were going to die alone by the river if you were a woman. Right. And even though that's not true anymore, that messaging is still embedded in all of our culture, movies, books, what our mothers have told us, you know, all of that. And so because it's the high stakes, it feels like a high stakes situation. I think it's almost like, if I don't do this, or if I do this wrong, or if there's a problem, or if I make a mistake, my whole identity feels like an existential challenge. Hence all the perfectionism, the planning, the waiting, the lurking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I love that. I think shifting your identity can be really helped when you actually pick an identity to like act into and practice. So one of my favorite things to do is actually choose an actual person or character. And I love Michael Jordan for my business goals, or Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. She's another favorite of mine.
I love it.
And I think they're actually very similar people, Michael Jordan and Elle Woods. They're both very determined. And there's this idea that I heard from someone called Jacqueline Gates, who says that if you set a goal, or you decide, let's say you decide you're going to date, you've just received or been given the part in a play. Now your job is to put the set together and learn all the lines and do all the costume changes until you one day wake up and it's opening night and it's all kind of happened. And I love the idea of imagining that you're like in a rom-com and you are this character that you are going to go and find your romantic, the love of your life, or however, whatever it is you're looking for, maybe just a date. And you can actually take it on and not be yourself for a second. And it's not to pretend like you're someone else. We're just using it. You're not being inauthentic. We're just like using their strength, their courage that you have within you as well, and kind of acting into that and imagining like, what would Elle Woods do? What would Michael Jordan do? What would this person that I'm interested in, the way that they show up in the world, how would they approach this? Suddenly it becomes really clear what to do next.
Yeah, I love that concept. Like as you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, like we could totally write a script. My daughter is a screenwriter. She started in screenwriting in college. So I
Cool.
was like, oh my gosh, like so you just write a script, you see the opening of the movie and the character going, like waking up one day and is like, oh, I haven't been dating, and then deciding this is the day, and literally having the dialogue in the
Yeah.
movie. Oh my, that's
And
such
we
a
know about movies that things go wrong as well. And so we can plan and expect for that to happen. One of the things I did at the beginning of this year was write down the list of everything I expect to go wrong this year. So it was like, people are going to judge me, or like people are going to disagree with what I do, I should say. That I was never going to feel like it. I was going to dread taking all of the actions. Stuff was going to go disastrously wrong in a way that I didn't expect it to go wrong. And when stuff that happens like that, now I'm like, oh, right, like that was part of the plan. That was the whole thing all along. This is the journey that this character takes to get to that end moment in the movie when they have all of the things that they want. And also, if you notice, most ways through a movie, about three quarters of the way through a movie, like something terrible, like it
something
looks
really
good,
bad
looks good, and then
happens.
something really bad happens, right?
Yeah.
That is not a sign to stop. That is your sign to keep going. You're nearly there. You're nearly at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that really resonates because we all want things to go right. And I think our willingness to have things go wrong and our self-trust that some things are going to go wrong. Yes, I might get ghosted. I would likely get ghosted. It's actually kind of a thing that,
Totally.
I think what people don't think about is the fact that you're going to ghost some people, and that's going to be the right thing to do.
Yes. Oh
Right?
my
Like
gosh.
the way our brain's expectation is that, oh, this is all I'm just gonna go out there on the apps. And I thought this too. Like I was so naive when I first got on the apps. I was 40 years old, but I was so naive. I really thought I was gonna get on the apps and I was gonna go on all these dates and it was gonna be fun. And then one person would just be like, you're the one for me. And like in my mind, I was like, yeah, I was gonna have 6 amazing dates. And then I was just going to fall in love and that would be it. And it was not that at all. But it's interesting that even though I was a woman in midlife, that was the image I had in my head. So when things started to go wrong, I was very surprised.
Yes. And that surprise is what makes us want to stop taking action.
Mm-hmm.
It's expecting it to be a certain way and thinking, like my brain always goes, like 8 o'clock in the morning and I don't feel like working. What? That's so weird. Maybe I should not do the work I need to do. It's like, no, of course you don't feel like working at 8 o'clock in the morning when you plan to work. Like that's the whole deal. No one ever wants to get up early and work. But
Yeah.
like, of course. So like I just allow myself to dread stuff and to expect myself to not want to do the things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
dating included, right? You got to expect it's going to suck at sometimes, but it's going to have a net positive result. And it doesn't have to, like, we're not willing the suckiness into existence. We're just not going to let our brains be surprised if it does
Yeah.
feel sucky or things do go wrong.
Right. And I think the suckiness is actually just added suffering that comes from not expecting those things to happen. Being ghosted really sucks when you think you shouldn't be ghosted. And people shouldn't be ghosting each other. But if you're like, yep, I'm going to get ghosted, I'm going to ghost some people, it's just part of the process. And when it happens, you don't like it. It's uncomfortable. You might even be annoyed, but you're not like, you're not likely to plummet to the depths of despair because you got ghosted by a guy that you thought was cute. Because you're expecting it's like potholes, or potholes on the road somewhere. No, none of us expect to never encounter a pothole ever. We all know after winter, there's gonna be potholes in the spring.
Yes.
At least
Oh
over
my
here in the
gosh.
US. I don't know if that happens in New Zealand.
I think so. I mean, I know it definitely happens for you guys. That makes me think of how writers or the really successful writers often keep a folder of rejection letters as like a celebration. It's like, oh, I want to fill this up. Like, how many of these folders can I fill with rejection letters? I suppose it's probably email folders now, but actually looking for it and going out and be like, this is an indicator that I'm going to be successful. There's actually a beautiful quote by Kris Jenner. She says, I'm going to butcher it, but she says something along the lines of like, hearing no isn't a no to you, it's just a no from that person. So it's not the universe saying, no, you're shutting you down. It's just, no, that wasn't the pathway. Find a different one.
Yeah. Why do no's feel so painful to us? Like, because I know that, and I've done several episodes on rejection and how rejection feels. Like, why do we spend so much time avoiding the no's?
Because I think we're not, they're not supposed to happen.
Yeah. Like, that's what's
I'm
happened. They mean
supposed to get
something
a
about
no.
us.
Everyone's supposed to love me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that you put it that way. I was reading, I haven't finished it. It's a book on REBT, Rational Emotional Behavioral Therapy, which is like the predecessor to cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was one of the phrases. So he had about 3 or 4 phrases that he said that humans believe that cause us suffering. And one of them was, everyone should love me and everyone should treat me well.
Mm,
And if they don't, then they're terrible and horrible. Right.
yeah.
And then the other one was, I should always do everything perfectly and wonderfully. And if I don't, then I am terrible and unworthy and whatever, which is like, they're like twin thoughts. Because if we don't do dating perfectly and go out on the first date and meet our partner on that first date, then we think there's something wrong with us. And if people show up in ways that we're uncomfortable with, or that we don't like, or that don't serve our purposes, then we think they're terrible and horrible and unworthy.
That's so good. Your expectations mean everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should have an expectation of the journey that's going to have its ups and downs, but will end with us achieving exactly what we want. So who are your clients? Who do you typically work with? What kinds of projects or challenges are they facing in your practice?
Yeah. I work a lot with people who are entrepreneurs or want to become entrepreneurs, are very ambitious, and they want to take on a goal. Like I had a woman start a bookshop. And actually, she did that in 9 weeks. So we still had like 6 months of coaching, and she ended up writing a book in the meantime as well. So that was really fun. I have also helped people find love, that's really exciting. I love to do that because it's so life-changing, I'm
Do
sure.
you have any
As you know,
stories
your whole
around
thing.
what you've done with your clients when they're looking for love?
Yeah. So I am in awe of the things that my clients end up doing. One of my clients asked for someone's phone number when he parked in their parking spot, and then they came and asked him, like, they were angry. They were like, you need to move your car. And like, he's like, that's fine, I'll move the car. And like, by the way, can I have your number? And I just thought it was amazing.
Oh
and he asked for someone's number while waiting in line for the toilet on an airplane. I'm like, listen, there are people everywhere. If you are willing to just ask, there's so many opportunities. And he had all of these kind of like seemingly serendipitous moments, kind of like what you were saying in the beginning, where the fate seems to play into it because you created all of these opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Asking for numbers on the plane.
Well, in line
Yeah.
for the bathroom, can you imagine? You'd be like, can I just quickly go first?
Right.
Really
Well,
need to
when
go.
you think about it, like we were talking about, just like creating opportunities, if you love traveling, what better place to meet someone else who loves to travel than on a plane? Like you have a collection of people. I mean, there might be some people on there who are traveling for like, serious things, and they don't plan to ever travel again. But the large majority are going to be people who love to travel, who are enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah, and they've got so much time. They've got hours, and most people aren't like, I'm working. Like some people work on planes, but a lot of people are like, I'm just watching a movie. So
Yeah.
plenty of time.
Yeah, so good.
Like a little like an accidental date. Like you can have your first date at the back of a plane. You just watch wait for when they get up to go to the bathroom and then run.
Or have conversations, because especially when you're flying internationally, that you're allowed to like stand for like long periods of time and just chat. Like you just chat. It's like being in a bar. Yeah. I've got all kinds of ideas. Yes. Go chat that lady up across the aisle.
For my own business, I have the thought, everyone could be my client. Like I just look around on the street, and like any one of these people could be my client. And I think that could be the same for love. Like any one of these people could be someone who I could be with, or they know someone I could be with if it's not them. Like everyone is a potential connection.
Yeah, 100%. And everyone has goals. And I think like when you're talking about how everyone could be your client, I think that's true. Like you actually have the perfect niche.
Thank you.
Everyone has goals. Everyone is pursuing something. I remember after my divorce, even before I started dating, like about the first year after my divorce, I had a lot of goals. I was like, okay, I gotta get a job. I have to, I wanted to travel with my teens because my ex was not someone who liked to travel. So I was like, I want to start catching up on our travel. I wrote a list of 100 goals. Like there were just all kinds of big little things that I wanted to do. So I think everyone, and I think goals help us like sort of like overcome that natural inertia that we have.
Oh, totally. I love a good goal. In fact, in the times of my life that I haven't had a goal, I've always felt less
Mm.
joy. And it's not because I want to get to the place. In fact, getting there is almost never as good as like just the journey, which is so cliche, but it really is. Like I just love who I'm being when I'm going after a goal.
Yeah, tell me more about that, because I think this is something that we don't naturally feel, that the process, and people tell us all the time, the process is what matters and the process is better than the end. And I tell my clients the same thing about meeting their partner. I'm like, listen, you need to feel the way you're going to feel when you're with your partner now, because this is how you go through the process, and the emotions you're feeling determine really where you're going to end up. But like, I don't know if you can explain that the process is what matters concept, maybe in a way that's different than I have explained it before.
Yeah, well, I would think about when you hit a goal, what the emotion you experience is. Like when I hit a goal, 99% of the time, the emotion that I experience is just relief. Like, oh, okay, I did it. That's done. Because as you move closer to the goal, your self-concept and your belief in your ability to achieve it gets bigger. Like you expect you're going to achieve it. Like at the beginning, you're like, this is crazy. And then as you start to move closer to it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm probably, and you almost like feel like you have it before you have it. And that's a beautiful thing. Like I always feel like I am a year older than I am in the coming few months. So like every time it's like, I'm about to turn 27. So I'm like, I feel like I'm 27 because everyone around me is kind of turning that age. I just sort of take that. And when I turn 27, I'm kind of like, oh, is this it? Like I thought, I'm not surprised. I'm not gone from 27. I was 26.999. Now I'm 27, right? So it's the same thing with a goal. You're not going to feel that excitement. In fact, I think the reason we set goals is because the best feeling you ever have is when you set one, when you create a possibility in your mind. To me, setting a goal feels like falling in love. I get sweaty palms, my heart races. I can't stop thinking about it. I'll fantasize about it, think about it all night. I have what I call creative insomnia, and I will stay up till 4 a.m. just dreaming about what it's going to be like to have that thing and how I'm going to get it. And to me, that's the same process of falling in love with someone, having that honeymoon phase. And then you go through the part where you're like, uh-oh, like in a relationship where you're like, I don't know if we're going to get through this rough patch. But you have, if it's the right thing, you have to keep going. And then eventually you get to the part where you're like, yeah, this is nice. Kind of like being with someone for a long time. I don't wake up every morning with my partner and be like, oh my goodness, well, fabulously, I am in love today. I'm like, yeah, you're good. You're there. Hi, good morning. I'm happy.
Yes. Often my clients will ask, as they're getting, okay, we're on date number 12, 13, 14, 15, we're racking up the numbers. And sometimes along the way, they meet someone that really gives them a high, and they think because of that high, that's the person. But then when we evaluate, maybe it wasn't the person. And I always try to explain what you just did to them. I'm like, when you meet your person, it's going to feel different from what you felt before. I was like, you felt the high of crushing on someone, of fantasizing and obsessing. You felt that before, right? Meeting your person doesn't feel like that. It is a high, but it's a different kind of high. It's a high that's familiar. It's like a familiar high. It's like you're in love, but then they also feel like they're your best friend. And you also feel like you've known them forever. So there isn't that novelty and shock. But then there's also a lot of curiosity, because there are a lot of things you don't know. I was like, it's this mix of excitement and love, but then also it feels very ordinary. And every time, and sometimes I have clients who maybe will have a little anxiety, especially if they were in an abusive relationship. They'll have a little anxiety about commitment. But that's different. The love itself, their connection with the person is sort of in that it's sort of in the middle. It's like it's on the positive side of the spectrum, but it's not this sharp high. It's like this peaceful, I guess is the word that one of my clients used. They were
Mhm.
like, it's just this peaceful, positive, warm and fuzzy anticipation when I think about them.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful way to describe it.
Yeah. And I think it helps. I think part of the reason that happens is because along the way, as they've been dating all these other people, they've been absorbing that possibility, kind of like how you describe your expanding yourself. They've been expanding their self-concept, seeing themselves as attractive and lovable and able to date and able to meet people. And then so when they meet their person, it's like, oh, this is great, but it's sort of normal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing with the audience today. I really appreciate it. And I had asked you kind of like what, thoughts about what work you do and kind of like some of the goals that you help people set. Just if people wanted to work with you, how would they know that like you were the perfect coach for them? What kinds of, well, you said love and work and people who are really ambitious, I think is what I remember you saying.
Yeah, totally. If you're very ambitious, right now I'm running a program that's for entrepreneurs. So if you're someone who is like has an entrepreneurial goal, you don't have to consider yourself an entrepreneur yet, but you have like a goal that you want to bring into reality, then that's definitely the thing you want to come and work with me. I mean, I just work with people who are ambitious and willing to do what it takes. Like they just have that fire within them.
Yes, yes, I love it. So where can they find you if they want to write a book, change careers, start a bookshop or another
Yes.
business? Where can they find you on the internet?
Yes, come to my website, saraharnoldhall.com, or you can find me on all of the social channels under Sarah Arnold Hall.
All right. All right, listeners. Please check out Sarah's work. All of her links will be in the show notes. I mean, I just want to wrap up by saying like goal setting and moving towards my goals, like saved my life after my divorce. Like every time I decided I wanted something new and I wrote it down, I'm a big believer in writing them down and chose to move towards it. It just exponentially made my life better. So I want to encourage you to follow Sarah on all of her social media platforms and
Yes,
reach
and
out
go
to
listen
her.
to my podcast. I just totally remembered I have a podcast every week. It's
Yes.
called How to Take Action. It's perfect. Well, you have to look it up as right there. It's
Yes.
exactly it. How to take action. Let's go.
Check out the podcast, How to Take Action. That will also be in the show notes. I think every area of life needs Sarah's work. So Sarah, thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your amazing and inspiring story. And we'll link up everything so that the listeners can find you. Listeners, we just want to thank you for your time and attention, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you so much, Sade.
Thank you. It was so good to have you.
So great.